Ladies and gentlemen, good day and welcome to the Q2 FY22 earnings conference call of CG Power and Industrial Solutions Limited, hosted by DAM Capital Advisors Limited. As a reminder, all participant lines will be in the listen-only mode, and there will be an opportunity for you to ask questions after the presentation concludes. Should you need assistance during the conference call, please signal an operator by pressing star then zero on your touchtone phone. Please note that this conference is being recorded. I now hand the conference over to Ms. Bhumika Nair from DAM Capital Advisors. Thank you, and over to you, ma'am.
Thanks, Rujita. A very good afternoon to everyone. On behalf of DAM Capital, I would like to welcome you to the CG Power and Industrial Solutions 2Q FY22 earnings call. We have the management today being represented by Mr. S. Vellayan, Chairman, Mr. N. Srinivasan, Managing Director, Mr. Sushil Todi, Chief Financial Officer, Mr. Ramesh Kumar, President Industrial Division, Mr. Mukul Srivastava, President Power Systems, Mr. Ranjan Singh, Executive Vice President Railways. I'll now hand over the floor to the management for their initial remarks, post which we'll open up the floor for Q&A. Over to you, sir.
May I request Mr. Vellayan, Chairman of the company, to say a few words?
Yeah. Thank you, Bhumika, and thank you, NS. And welcome all to our first earnings call. As you know, it's been a fairly transformational year for CG, and I think the company has done very well under its new leadership, and we will get into that discussion a little bit. And as you all know, basically this is a company that we bought during COVID, so it came with significant risks, not just because of COVID, but because of what had happened with the company in the past. But I do feel like the company is definitely turning a corner now, and we feel much more confident about the future of the company, which we will elaborate as we go through our conversation today. But before I started, kind of given that it's our first earnings call, I just wanted to also thank several people that have been that have really helped this transformation happen. First, the support that we got internally within the Murugappa Group to basically kind of do this acquisition stuff. The corporate board led by Mr. M. Murugappa and really kind of helped us in that effort. Also then the former CFO, Sridhar Rangarajan, who really helped with the whole acquisition effort, and the TI finance and legal team, including Mahendra Kumar and Suresh Ramanujam Ramshankar, the team at CAM. But I think then kind of one of the most important kind of teams in the process that also gave us the confidence to make the acquisition was the key management at CG itself. Ramesh and Ranjan were the two key people, and Sushil were the three key people we kind of spent a lot of time with, and then Mukul joined the team as well. So I think without their confidence, as you probably know, we actually kind of ended up buying the asset without visiting a single plant because of COVID. So if it wasn't for the confidence that we received from the three of them and some of our additional checks, I don't think we would have had the confidence to make this acquisition. Also, the cultures, they gave us a sense that the culture of the organization at the operating level was very similar to that in the group itself. And then finally, the one other person who has been very instrumental in the turnaround has been Mr. N. Srinivasan, the current MD, and I like to thank him also for accepting the MD role at a point when there were a lot of unknowns as to where the company was going to head at that point in time, and I really felt that he was the ideal person for the role. It was pivotal that we had someone that we could basically trust, given the current situation that the company was in at that point in time. So all that being said, we also held off a bit on having earnings calls till we felt comfortable with certain kind of factors internally that Mr. Srinivasan will elaborate more on. And with that, I think I'd like to hand it over to Mr. Srinivasan to take us through his assessment of the performance to date, and then we'll come back to you with Q&A after that. So, thank you. Thanks again.
Thank you, Mr. Vellayan. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. On behalf of the company, let me first extend a warm welcome to all of you for the first analyst call, the first by the new management. I'm N. Srinivasan, Managing Director of the company. Joined this company on 26/11/2020, the day on which TI took control of this company, post acquisition of the company by Tube Investments of India, a constituent of the Murugappa Group. I also would like to now introduce my colleagues who are with me on this call. Ramesh Kumar, President, Industrial Division. He's a CG veteran and has been with the company for about 31 years and has held various senior positions in the company. He takes care of the motors and drives business. Mukul Srivastava, President, Power Systems. He's also had a number of years of experience in CG, more than 30 years. He has taken care of the transformer and switchgear businesses. Ranjan Singh, Executive Vice President, Railway Business. Ranjan is also a CG veteran with 28 years of service with the company. Sushil Todi, CFO of the company. Sushil has been with the company for about 17 years. Let me just begin. As you know, first today, this morning, actually, the board considered the results of Q2, and then we have uploaded the results to the stock exchange, and also we have also released a press release that also been uploaded in the company's website as well as to the Bombay Stock Exchange. Now, with that, actually, let me just begin with a recap. As you know, Tube Investments of India acquired this company under a Swiss challenge as part of a resolution process initiated by the lenders of CG Power under the Reserve Bank of India Directive on Prudential Framework for Resolution of Stressed Assets. TI infused equity funds of about 687 crores for the equity stake of 54% in the company, besides also subscribing to certain warrants. TI took control of the company on 26/11/2020. On the same day, a new board was constituted and a new managing director of the company was appointed. As you may know, the new management had to address several legacy issues, the important of which I will enumerate as under. Number one, the NCLT has ordered the reopening, recast and re-audit of the company's accounts for the past 5 years, ending with financial year 2018-19. This was to be commenced and then completed. The auditors, the then existing auditors actually had expressed a disclaimer on the accounts of the company for the past 3 years, and this also had to be addressed. 2, all lenders of the domestic entity, overseas subsidiaries, guarantee obligations and which were defaulted on the loans, the dues of operational creditors and other stakeholders had to be settled. Number 3, there were investigations by SFIO, SEBI, and the company had to work with the authorities by providing data, information in time as per the request. Number 4, the company was a non-performing asset. The new management had the task of completing all the settlements as per the resolution plan and get the account reclassified as standard. Number 5, the businesses had to be supported with need-based working capital and be ring-fenced from legacy issues so that they could perform to their potential without any interruption. All these took substantial amount of time. We wanted to comply with many of these requirements and also complete the recasting of the accounts of the company, which will help us know further risk and liabilities, if any, to which the company is exposed to. It is only after getting a reasonable understanding of the risks that are facing the company, post completion of the recasting of accounts, and also after reviving the businesses of the company, we wanted to commence the investor call. And here we are today on our first call, and we hope you appreciate as to why we could not be in touch with you earlier. This may also now lead to another question, whether all the legacy issues have been sorted out. No, it cannot be, and it may take some more time. But important requirements, namely settlement of lenders, settlement of operational creditors, recasting of the past 5 years accounts have all been completed, and the businesses are on the path to recovery. So that's the background for you. Now I switch to company performance. As I said earlier, we have released a press note on the company performance. While we have given corresponding quarter of last year data, these last year data are not comparable. since the company was under severe financial stress last year, we need to build our own performance data from now onwards. Also, it would take a few quarters to catch up with peers as we slowly, fully normalize our operations, resolving several legacy issues. Now I come to specifically to the Q2 performance. Standalone Q2 financial results. In Q2, the company has the benefit of uninterrupted working, and all the businesses have performed satisfactorily with improved capacity utilization. As you know, Q1 was impacted by COVID and we lost some working days. Sales for the quarter was at 1,351 crores, the highest in the last 10 quarters, and the profit before tax was at 137 crores, again the highest recorded in the last 20 plus quarters. Aggregate sales for the quarter were higher at 1,351 crores, recording a growth of 139% year-on-year and 42% quarter-on-quarter. Higher prices of key metals, copper, aluminium, etc., continue to impact margins. Profit before tax before exceptional items was at 137 crores, as against a loss of 40 crores during the previous year, same period. On quarter-on-quarter, sales increased by 42% and PBT by 88%, signaling a recovery in business performance. The free cash flow generation during the quarter stands at 119 crores. Now I move to segmental performance. As you know, we have two segments. One is industrials, which consists of the motors, drives, plus railways, and then second is the power systems. Now, industrials, this SBU consists of motors, drives business, and also railways. Aggregate sales for the quarter for this SBU were higher at 980 crores, recording a growth of 143% year-on-year and 43% quarter-on-quarter. Unexecuted order book at the end of September stood at 1,585 crores. This division operated at 85% of the installed capacity. Power systems. This SBU consists of manufacture of transformers and switchgears. Aggregate sales for the quarter were higher at 372 crores, recording a growth of 131% year-on-year and 39% quarter-on-quarter. Unexecuted order book at the end of September 2021 was 1,259 crores. Transformers, switchgears, circuit breakers, instrument transformers and bushings subsegments have operated at 55% and 65% of their respective installed capacities. CG consolidated performance. So the company has three operating subsidiaries, two overseas subsidiaries, one domestic subsidiary. The domestic subsidiary is the CG PPI, which is in Goa, in which we have about 81% shareholding. The other two subsidiaries are, one is QEI Incorporated in the USA. The other one is actually DAS Sweden. In both these overseas subsidiaries, we hold 100% of the equity. They are wholly owned subsidiaries. Consolidated results include performance of all the three operating subsidiaries and few other non-operating holding subsidiaries. Consolidated sales for the quarter was at 1,454 crores as against 664 crores in Q2 of 2020-21, and the profit before exceptional items and tax was at 144 crores as against a loss of 37 crores in the corresponding quarter of last year. Then overall indebtedness, the company has an aggregate long-term debt of rupees 846 crores. The company does not have any short-term or working capital debt. Financial statements with detailed notes are available as part of the stock exchange filing and also in the company's website, www.cgglobal.com. Between myself and my colleagues, we'll be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
We will now begin the question and answer session. Anyone who wishes to ask a question may press star and one on the touchtone telephone. If you wish to remove yourself from the question queue, you may press star and two. Participants are requested to use handsets while asking a question. Ladies and gentlemen, we will wait for a moment while the question queue assembles. first question is from the line of Nitin Arora from Axis Mutual Fund. Please go ahead.
Hi, team. Thank you so much for taking the question, and thank you so much for doing the call. My first question is that, especially to the industrial and your core segment business, can you help us understand, how the end markets are behaving in the industrial part, where you're getting this growth? That's the broad first question. And on your segmentation of power system, historically we have tracked this company more of EPC work, which the historical promoter used to do here. If you can throw some light how we are planning to grow this segment, because earlier we thought, this is a segment which doesn't make money because of the nature of work, and though in last 2 quarters the margins have been healthy. So are there some right backs which you are doing here? That's my first question. Then I have 2 more questions. I'll take it after that.
Ramesh, you can answer the first question.
Yeah. See, the industrial division, basically there are 3 major products where HT motors, ELT motors and FHP motors. So if whatever the results declared by EMA up to first Q1 is available, Q2 results have not been declared by EMA so far. The growth has been in LT motors it is 242% and HT motors is about 45% and the FHP motors are 110%. And if you see both in Q1 and Q2 of course results have not come. The growth has been in 3-digit and we are growing little more than the market what has been declared. So far it has been in 3-digit growth for all the products in the industrial division.
Yeah. So power, you can answer. So on the power business, your question as to mix of EPC and how you propose to grow margins, etc. I think it will take some time for us to decide on the strategy. These both transformer and switchgears, these are actually we have to make for against orders we have to produce. The time is too short for us. We are assessing the performance of initially our task will be to just improve the capacity utilization and serve the existing customers, and then as we move we will finalize our strategy. It will take some time for us to come to a view.
But has there been some right backs done in the first 2 quarters in the power system?
No.
At the operational level?
No right back, sir. No right back. It's a purely operational performance and it's a product driven business now more.
All right, got it. And sorry sir, just on the the industrial part, my question was which end segments where you getting these orders from? It's from the railways, some orders are coming, these kind of an end segment. If you can talk more about where you seeing the recovery, how you seeing the visibility, that was more from I was asking.
Basically, see, there are 3 segments which are doing well. One is the infrastructure, oil and gas, and the pharma. These 3 are growing faster than any other segment. And the major contribution for the growth is also from these are the segments which contributing for the growth.
Getting it. My second question is on the market share. So, historically, we used to track this company, the market share was very high in motors. The dealers and all, they used to be very, it's a brand which is very strong, so you used to sell very fast. And then we saw whatever happened in the past, the market share came down against few companies like ABB, Siemens. How has been your experience clawing back? What kind of a scenario you have seen in your market share? Have there been gains or it will still take more time? If you can throw some light on the market share, and then I have one more question after that.
So, you want to say?
No, go ahead.
So actually, I think we have to give some more time for. I think we have started ramping up production. You see, then also because of the COVID, etc., everybody had their own issues. Only by end of the year, we believe that we will be able to gain market share. Certainly, we are ramping up and we have production. So I think you have to wait for some more time. Only by the end of the year, probably you will get some idea.
Okay. All right. My last question is, we keep seeing ads and things about you launching fans. I think you've already launched pumps. and we also talk about developing the motors from the electric vehicles. Just two parts here. One, on the development of a motor for an electric vehicle, if you can throw some light where we have reached in terms of development, because India has almost 18 to 20 electric motor people who are already in-housed by the OEMs. So why would an OEM would buy your motor leaving the other guy? If you can throw some light on that product line. And second, on the pumps and on your consumer-facing business, how we want to grow the dealers, how much the existing dealer channel will replicate or not on these both business lines, if you can throw some light. Very much.
Electric vehicle you can talk about. Then I can talk about
Electric vehicle.
Yeah, so I think, Nitin, broadly to your question, on the electric vehicle side, we're just starting out, right? And but we see significant opportunity because multiple trends begin happening, right? Kind of often, you have a first phase where all of the EV manufacturers want to make everything in-house, and then you usually have a second phase where more and more of it gets outsourced. If you look at this whole kind of motor plus controller solution, I don't think it has evolved at all in the Indian market, because the solutions that are going to evolve in the Indian market are not necessarily going to be the solutions that have evolved in markets outside of India. When you begin to look at overall, most places outside of India don't have anything in the sub 50 kilowatt range, right? And a large part of the market in India is actually going to start picking up in two-wheelers, three-wheelers, and products that are definitely kind of much smaller than that in terms of power. So I would actually argue that though initially some people are going to manufacture them in-house, this is going to become an outsourced space in India as well if we begin to take a 5 to 10 year horizon. And honestly, we think that kind of, we, in all that we are planning from a growth perspective, we're taking, that 5 to 10 year horizon at least. The second is that, I don't think anybody has done any innovative work as to how these solutions in India will be different from what's evolved globally. And it's going to require people, so it's one thing to do a solution for yourself, saying how will I put in kind of a solution that I'm going to bring in perhaps from outside, and put it into a vehicle here, but it's something that actually kind of, it makes sense to develop this in India for Indian markets. So we're taking a long view as far as EV is concerned, and we definitely believe that there's a lot of legs in it. So our first stage is just to start working, on technology that will help us get to kind of motors and controllers. But it's not going to be kind of a short-term effort as far as we're concerned. So that's our belief, which is, that this market is going to have a lot of opportunity. The second thing which I would think will also have opportunity is that more and more of this, starting with components, starting with just stamping, for example, right? Just stamping of the motor core itself. It's something that gets outsourced by most players, including Tesla, right? So you can see backward opportunities that basically kind of offer themselves up for global markets. And that's another area we want to look at as well, right? Saying how can we manufacture out of India for some of those global markets, in the whole area of electric. And so that's the second opportunity that we want to look at as well. So we started exploring this, but it's going to be a while before that actually turns into revenue and significant revenues as far as CG is concerned.
Your other question about consumer product, just to tell you, in 2015 we have vacated this market, and then we have re-entered this consumer products in 2019. Unfortunately, after that, because of the COVID, we could not ramp up. But as far as with respect to your question, it is existing channel partners who are well versed with CG and who are already dealing with our motors and other products. So it was very easy for us to get back into the market. So that is why we entered into this market. So we are hopeful that we will be able to ramp up like what it was earlier.
Sorry to interrupt. May I request Mr. Arora to please rejoin the queue? We have participants waiting for the turn. Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, in order to ensure that the management is able to address questions from all participants, please limit your question to one per participant. If you have a follow-up question, you may rejoin the queue. The next question is from the line of Abhishek Poddar from HDFC. Please go ahead.
Hi, thanks for taking my question. So congratulations on a great set of numbers. First question regarding the margins that you have showed, and there is a commentary in the press release which says that the margins were impacted by the higher metal prices. So we don't have a good track record of the previous margins. So where do we see the margin settling now? If this quarter was impacted due to higher prices.
So I think, margins are a combination of two factors. One is the selling price, other is the cost, raw material cost. As you see, these metal prices have been subject to great volatility. Nobody has any clue of how the prices are going to behave. This is one. Second is with respect to our own margins for this quarter and last quarter, there were a lot of unexecuted orders contracted at various prices. In this industry, there is no price variation clause. If you accept an order, you service. So therefore, it will be very difficult to answer this, to at what level margins will settle down, because unless the new normal becomes normal, it is going to be tough. This is my view. What, Ramesh?
Yeah, that's true.
So we should see tailwinds for margins from here. I think directionally that is what the press release indicates.
Come again?
My sense is because you have mentioned that metal prices are very high and that is impacting the margins. So that clearly indicates that for margins we should see tailwinds as the metal prices moderates.
There could be, because every cost increase is not being passed on, cannot be passed on. What the market bears, will pass it on. We have to, I believe, we have to just wait and see how things settle down.
Understood. So may I ask one more question?
Yeah, please.
Okay, just on the international subsidiaries, we saw a revenue of about 100 crores and EBITDA of 13. What percentage utilization these are operating, and where do we see this potential to be?
So there are two operating subsidiaries, mainly overseas subsidiaries. There are two subsidiaries. One is, I said QEI, which is based in USA. I think that for the present, that is the level at which it will operate, unless, there are some specific strategies for scaling up, etc. The drives business, which also, whatever is the turnover reported, that is what probably going forward for the current year, I think we expect to perform at the same level. Going forward, I think, we have to spend some time and then see how what is possible.
Okay, so sorry, just to be clear, there is a significant scope of improvement here, or we probably have reached the number which are expecting now?
So right now, this is I would think that for the year, I think I am not expecting anything, because everywhere, there are issues, therefore I would think that whatever we have declared, if we are able to maintain for the next, for the current year, that will be fine.
Understood. I'll join back in queue. Thank you.
Thank you. The next question is from the line of Charanjit Singh from DSP Mutual Fund. Please go ahead.
Hello, sir. Good afternoon. Thanks for the opportunity. So my questions are, one, in terms of motors, which is a critical part of our industrial business, how much market share loss we would have seen, from last couple of years to right now. Secondly, on the railway side, we were scaling up very well in power electronics front. And what is the prospects you are seeing right now there? And have we started bidding in the railways orders? And lastly, on switchgears and transformers business, which could be coming from maybe Power Grid or some other government-related entities, have we started bidding for orders, or are there any still major bottlenecks or approval issues pending because of which we would not be able to bid for these orders right now? Yeah, these are the questions from my side.
With respect to market share, and on average industrial motors, you can say around 6 to 8% what we have lost in last 2 years. Whatever the published data available as on today by EMA in the first quarter, we have gained by about 4% so far.
So Ranjan, could you answer the railway part, and then followed by Mukul, who can answer the other the question relating to your business.
Yeah. From the railway business, we have been executing the orders of backlog from power electronics as well as industrial for the power traction machines and signaling businesses. And there have been a growth in the sales across all the segments that we operate in the railway domain as compared to last year. Significant growth has happened in the this segment as well, both in terms of order intake as well as in sales. We have been participating in tenders and taking orders as
well. As regards to power business with utilities and public utilities from central as well as state, we are qualified in most of the places. One or two cases where something to do with the past year's financials is there. That's the only place we are working on. But otherwise, most of the places we are now qualified to participate and win the tenders.
Yeah.
Okay, sir. Thanks for taking my questions. I'll circle back in my queue.
Thank you. The next question is from the line of Bhavin Vithlani from SBI Mutual Fund. Please go ahead.
Thank you for the opportunity and congratulations on a swift turnaround to the entire team. So just one question from my side. The changing technology trends that we are seeing on the motor side, especially on reducing the power consumption and moving into IE3, IE4 category. If you could give us a view of how are we placed on the technology curve?
See, we have always been in the forefront in putting the technology in place. If you remember, in 2018, IE2 was made the compulsory in India. We are the first people to get registered and have the entire range of IE2 with BE. And similarly, we have developed IE3. We have complete range of IE3 and IE4 also. We have developed the complete range, except for FLP, which we are on testing. It is going on for flame-proof motors. Otherwise, up to IE4, we are ready to serve the market. And we also done a little bit of work on a couple of ranges as far as IE5 is concerned. So that is the future which we will be working, and then we will bring that also into our product portfolio.
Thank you so much for taking my question.
Thank you. The next question is from the line of Ankur Sharma from HDFC Standard Life Insurance. Please go ahead.
Yeah, hi, good afternoon, sir. Thanks for your time. Just one question on the power systems business. Now, if I remember right, the erstwhile CG Power also was, very strong on the SEB side in terms of supplies of transformer, switchgear, etc. Obviously, given the fact that the higher rating 765 is seeing an overcapacity, so how kind of demand shaping up in these lower voltage levels, on the transformer switchgear side, also on the SEBs as well?
Sorry, can you repeat the first part? What is the SUV you asked?
SEBs, I mean the state electricity board, the state discoms,
okay,
right?
SEBs, yeah. Okay, see the power part, the transmission side of the power is seeing an uptrend. Definitely starting with the transformers. Transformers part, we are almost booked for a good period of time. So that is a good traction. On the EHV side, I mean, voltage going from up to 145 to 400 kV. The AIS side is not showing the same traction as the transformers, but it is improving slowly. Whereas the GIS part of the high voltage is giving a good traction. There are a lot of projects coming across the country where a lot of GIS substations are getting installed. So in a way, I will say the transmission part is up and running, as we are seeing that the demand of power in the country is growing day by day. The distribution side also is picking up a great traction. The only thing is on the AIS side of EHV, it is little slow as compared to GIS.
Okay. And just to clarify, one of the statements was that, we do not have a price variation clause in these orders. I mean, I always thought that EMA had these indices, right, based on which you would get a price variation if copper, etc., goes up, right?
Correct. The price variation clause is there in the large orders of the transformers, definitely. But in some distribution switchgears, normally these are short-term orders of 3 or 4 months. Those goes with the fixed contract. But as Mr. NS mentioned, that even the 4-month period in commodities have played havoc. So that is what I think he was indicating.
Sure. And just one more, if I may, on the industrial side. Obviously margins at about 12.5-13% are fairly commendable given where RM prices are. But just trying to understand a little bit more, because typically HT motors are the ones where you make higher margins, more customized motors, right? Where demand typically comes from cement, oil and gas, some of these industries. So are you also seeing demand coming back for these larger size HT motors, which may possibly drive margins even higher from here?
The HT motor demand is slightly better this year. That is because of water and wastewater is doing extremely well, and most of the investment is happening there. So the demand has been always good, but margin side, it is very difficult to predict because of the raw material. The variations are so high. It is unpredictable, which is happening there.
Okay. Fair. All right. Thanks.
Thank you. The next question is from the line of Renu Baid from IIFL. Please go ahead.
Yeah, hi, good afternoon, team, and congratulations for the strong results. Also, thank you for initiating investor interactions from this quarter. My first question is to understand on the technology gap side. While in motors, you did highlight that we have been consistently investing. How does the portfolio gaps look on the power system side, specifically GIS, which is seeing a structural shift from AIS to GIS and more so in the medium and low voltage segment? So if you can highlight how are we placed in terms of technology capabilities and what are the steps that we are initiating to bridge the gaps, especially when it comes to 220 or 400 kV? Are we also looking at possible inorganic growth options in this segment?
Mukul? Yes, sir. On the technology side, the LV and the low voltage and the medium voltage part, we are fairly self-sufficient, and we are also developing products which are required by the customer. The products like RMU, Ringman unit, or the medium voltage GIS, we were in the forefront of technology. We lost some time in last 2 years, and now we are catching up. And hopefully in another 2 quarters, we should be up and running at par with most of the competition in the country. On the aspect of the EHV GIS, we have already developed and started quoting for 220 kV GIS. 400 kV GIS, we are looking at options of tying up for the short term or maybe our own development, but that will take around 18 months to 24 months for complete development. So that we have started exploring, and if an opportunity presents itself, we will definitely participate for 400 kV GIS also. 765 kV is not becoming a big market, so presently that we are not considering. On the transformer side, we are also working on transformers required for railway applications, traction transformers, Scott connected transformers, and also the green transformers with ester oil. So on all fronts, in all parts of the power division, including medium voltage switchgear, high voltage switchgear, distribution transformers, or power transformers, our technology projects are up and running. And hopefully, whatever gap was there because of the last 2-3 years, that we should be able to cover in the next 2 quarters.
Okay. Secondly, when we look at CG, it was always considered as a cost competitive player in the industry when it came to power and industrial products. At the same time, TI has a very strong credibility to drive operational improvement. So in this perspective, what are the low-hanging fruits which the management perceives can be derived in terms of bringing out cost savings and improving working capital from the current levels?
So, firstly, our first task is to actually improve the capacity utilization so that the cost could be absorbed, fixed cost could be absorbed on a larger scale. So only after that, maybe the next year, probably we will identify. Costs have already been identified, and any specific cost saving I am not able to share at this point of time. Regarding your other question, regarding what did you say about TI?
As in TI has a pretty strong credibility in terms of driving operational improvement and productivity enhancement. So both on working capital as well as operational front, we were seeking if there were any identified areas which you can highlight at the facility or factory level or product improvement or in terms of working capital, procurement terms, etc.
Yeah. So all these areas in procurement, actually, there is a very big initiative which we are working. I can't share any further details. We are working with a leading consulting firm and how to optimize and bring down costs on procurement. Then we have also launched the TQM and Lean initiative, which has been personally driven by our chairman, Mr. Vellayan. So these things, when it's currently on way, when completed, I think this will have its own impact on the productivity as well as on the costs.
Sure. And just a question on the B2C strategy. While initially the management did mention that they are targeting to use the existing distribution network for motors and probably for pumps, but for new categories where the company plans to enter fans or other proper consumer-oriented product segments, what is the strategy to build capabilities, especially on the distribution and the reach side? And is there any investment that we have planned over the next 2 to 4 years to ramp up capabilities both on the new initiatives of B2C as well as the current portfolio that we have on the power systems as well as the industrial system side of the business?
So currently, as you rightly said, we are thinking of adding some more into the consumer business, but it will not be very difficult because some of the channel partners who have been dealing our products until 2015, they are still in touch with us. Maybe some of them may not be handling our own products and some of them are already handling our own products. So it is not that difficult for us to enter. So that is the reason we have taken this opportunity to re-enter all those products one after the another. So the first one we did and the second one is in line. Maybe going forward in a couple of years, we will keep adding some more products depending on the market and the way we established ourselves in the market.
Sorry to interrupt. May I request Ms. Renu Baid to please rejoin the queue? We have participants waiting for the turn.
Surely.
Thank you. The next question is from the line of Kirti Jain from Canara HSBC. Please go ahead.
Thanks a lot for the opportunity, sir. And congratulations for excellent performance. Sir, my first question is, what are the steps incrementally we will be taking to grow ahead of the market in the addressable opportunities we are there? And second thing, with regard to new SBUs, which is like the electric mobility and towards the consumer products, what are the things which we will do differently compared to the existing players to be relevant in those markets, sir? These are the two questions from my side. Thanks a lot, sir.
So I think, Kirti, thanks for the question. See, I think, and this will address part of what Renu was asking as well, right? You should think of it as kind of, what NS and the team have been driving here is a combination of three things, right? Kind of one is fixing the legacy issues. The second is enhancing the operational performance. And the third is driving growth. Okay. So in the initial phase, obviously, I would say kind of close to almost 70% of the effort has been on fixing the legacy issues. Then, 25 to, almost 30% on kind of on enhancing the operation performance, and very little focus has been there on growth. Now, as a team, as you've seen, kind of a lot of the legacy issues are beginning to get fixed. So we will see that shift between these three horizons move significantly over time, right? So next year, obviously, there'll be less work. I would say down to less than 30% in terms of the issues that still have to be fixed. And then we'll probably move to kind of, I would say maybe like 40% on enhancing the operational performance, and then, the growth engines, thinking about how the growth engines will pick up will be the other 30%. And then as we move into the year after that, then that number will move more significantly towards enhancing and growth, right? Enhancing operational performance and growth. So this is the way you have to think of the company, right? Which is going to be moving from each one of these phases to the next, over the next few years in time. Like we've articulated, there are different angles to the growth horizons. One is clearly kind of the consumer opportunity, which is, we think, as big as the current business opportunity in itself. EV is going to be clearly a lot slower burn, right? We are not ruling out inorganic after the balance sheet gets stronger, which we think will, like we've said, right? I mean, till we become net debt free, we won't kind of think about any of that other stuff. And then the two other growth elements that we've articulated, have been kind of, one has been service and technology related and then one has been exports, right? So each of the businesses are beginning to kind of think of some of these growth elements. But the growth elements will come in as their core focus. I'd say it'll be about 30% of the focus next year. And the year after that is when we will really kick into those growth elements. Because next year we also need to focus on some of the operational enhancement activities as well. Like NS mentioned, we have basically initiated some of the activities on TQM and on lean and on procurement. So all of those are also going to be things that begin to drive results, we believe, next year. So there's a phase that will be more focused on improving the operating performance that will then result hopefully in kind of better PBT numbers and free cash flow numbers. And then there's a phase that begins to think of how we start pushing revenue growth. So those two will always act in concurrence, but with different weightages, based on the needs of the business, which will, like we said, will be a higher weightage in operational enhancements next year, and then that will move more towards growth than in the year after.
That's fine.
Thank you. The next question is from the line of Abhishek Ghosh from DSP Mutual Fund. Please go ahead.
Yeah, hi sir. Thanks for the opportunity. I will answer just one question. When we had invested into CG Power about a year back, your initial estimates were 5,000 crores of revenue 3 years out with a 10% PBT margin. And the first quarter numbers analyzed basis, you're already there with very little efforts gone into the benefits. So first, many congratulations for that. And is there a marked difference from that point, the way you had estimated the business? How are you looking at it? Just your thoughts there.
So Abhishek, the only point I'll point out is you shouldn't say very little effort, because this team has been putting in a lot of effort to kind of make that happen. So I'd say that, kind of it's the amount of effort that's kind of gone in that has helped achieve these numbers kind of, within the short period of time. But yes, when we made the acquisition, our thesis was that we should be able to get to 5,000 top line and 500 bottom line within 4 years. And yes, you are correct in your maths, which is, I think we've had both kind of the team has put in immense efforts and, both, like I said, right, I mean, if you think of the amount of effort that's gone into fixing the legacy issues in terms of enhancing the operating performance, I would say it's kind of nothing short of stupendous what the team has put in to make it happen and to get to where it is today. So obviously a natural question is kind of where do these numbers go from here? And that's where I elaborated on this mix, right? Which is, we do think there's still kind of, headroom, but, we're not going to give any specific guidance in terms of, what we're going to be at. But we definitely think that there's headroom in terms of operations improvement. And there's definitely a lot of legs for growth along the dimensions that I just spoke about earlier. So definitely, obviously, those are numbers we're going to revise. But I think that, if we come to something that is more deterministic at some point in time, we can discuss it. But we are moving, given that, that we've hit this initial, now we're moving more of our focus to what we can do to enhance operating performance more and drive growth more. Like I said, these three things you have to think of concurrently. The weightages are what are beginning to shift significantly over time, Abhishek.
Thank you. The next question is from the line of Susmit Patodia from Motilal Oswal Asset Management. Please go ahead.
Hi, good evening, everyone, and congratulations. This is a great performance. One question is, when you took the company and where you are today, how has your outlook changed, and what are the risks that you are still mindful of that we should also be aware? I remember you had said that if we get to 10 margins in a few years, we'll be super happy, but you must be jumping with joy since you already achieved that. So Is the revenue acceleration more the focus now, or is balance sheet cleanup, and also on the risk part?
Yeah, Susmit, thanks. Yeah. So first off, like you said, I think that like now, given a lot of the activity that's happened, balance sheet cleanup will take its natural path, but it will kind of likely get, done, latest by next year, right? It looks like kind of that will happen, right? So clearly, we're beginning, when you say risks, right? I mean, clearly, there was an earlier question on technology. One of the things that we'll have to start looking at over time is how we start investing more in terms of R&D. And that is something that we are beginning to evaluate and see what we need to do to kind of invest more on that area. And then second, in terms of revenue aspirations, both NS and team are kind of beginning to kind of make that shift as well, right? Some of the internal focus is now shifting towards where they're looking at the existing businesses and seeing what opportunities exist to enhance those. And I think that is, like I said, once that becomes more front and center, I do think that the kinds of, the axes for growth in this business are massive, right? I would say kind of the potential avenues for growth in this business are massive. So, as NS and team kind of drive some of those initiatives, over the next 6 to 9 months, I definitely think that we will get more visibility as to, where we will focus some of the growth activity on. But there's no shortage of opportunities is what my assessment is at this point in time.
And Vellayan, any risks from litigation that is still lurking, or do you think everything is under control?
So I think, there are tax litigations which have to be resolved. We are working on it, but they are there. So it is, to that extent you can say there is a risk. Otherwise, I don't see a big, other than tax, there are not big litigations which are in the horizon.
Thank you so much and all the best. Thank you.
Yeah. Thanks, Susmit.
Thank you. The next question is from the line of Kunal Seth from B&K Securities. Please go ahead.
Hi, sir. Thank you for the opportunity.
I'm so sorry to interrupt you, but Mr. Seth, we cannot hear you. You're sounding very low, sir. Can you please speak louder?
Yeah, is it better now?
Yes, much better. Please go ahead.
Yeah, sure. So thank you for the opportunity and thank you for hosting this investor call. Sir, I just wanted to know about the industrial part of the business. How do we see the opportunity in the export market for our motors? I mean, how big and that opportunity can be, and how are we exploring that part of the business? And related question there is, what is the long-term sustainable margin we can think about in this business?
With respect to your first question, there's no doubt that the opportunities are very big in export market, but unfortunately we didn't push it very hard because the realizations are very low with respect to Indian market. That is basically because of the Chinese competition. Maybe going forward, if the margins, the realizations are better, definitely we will be pushing harder there as far as export business is concerned.
Sure. And sir, so basically any targets we are drawing in terms of what are the kind of export, numbers that we are looking at, any plans that we have drawn there, or we are just in the exploratory stage?
No. Right now the indigenous demand is so good. I think we want to serve the existing customers. As we plan our strategies for expansion, etc., this can be considered. Right?
Sure. And sir, what are the sustainable margins we can think about in this business, over a medium term?
So I think we discussed this earlier. There are so many cross currents today, so we will not be able to just predicate on everything. We need to wait for a while things to settle down. Then we have to put some margins.
Sure. Thank you, and best of luck for the future quarters.
Thank you.
Thank you. The next question is from the line of Jonas Bhutta from Phillip Capital. Please go ahead.
Good evening, team, and congratulations on a great set of numbers. Just one or maybe two interrelated questions on the industrial piece. Firstly, sir, this quarter we've already touched 85% utilization levels in the motor business. And given that, you're looking to regain the lost market share, of the additional 2-3 percentage points, you should, sort of be touching peak utilizations. So, what are the capacity expansion plans that you have here in the immediate future? Because, otherwise growth could become a challenge going forward in the next financial year. And interrelatedly, many of our competitors have started to add value-add products over and above the motor, be it a drive, PLC, SCADA, etc. While CG historically has the Ematron technology on drives and maybe QEI technology on SCADA, but we've not really seen a scale up. Do you believe that these could be growth levers for the future that can actually play out as and when you sort of go on that growth path, or you think that these will still remain the fringe businesses that they are currently? Thank you.
So in the given bottleneck, what NSS said that we are utilizing it about 85%. It is based on the given bottleneck operations. We are definitely investing and looking at each and every bottleneck operations to enhance our capacity. And I'm sure from the public domain, you must have noticed that one of the small facility which we have started for expanding our capacity, that itself will give us bigger room for us to grow. And going forward also, we will see some of those activities also can be, which are non-quality, rather critical to quality activities also can be outsourced. So that way we are planning to enhance our growth. And as you rightly also said, that the Ematron is a very, very strong brand, and we are only because of our own internal issue, we did not really push it into the Indian market. And we have HMIs and SCADA drives, everything is available in our range. Going forward, we will be definitely pushing that along with our existing products.
Got it. Thank you and all the very best.
Thank you. The next question is from the line of Krishna Kumar from Lion Hill Capital Private Limited. Please go ahead.
Hi, good evening, and congratulations, Mr. Vellayan and NS and team for a great turnaround. So you just talking about the power division and utilization levels being at about half. So given the current improvement in the demand scenario, any thoughts when you probably would be able to get to a more reasonably high utilization levels there?
Yes. See, on the power side, the contracts are really, long-term contracts, 6 months or so. So in the previous 2 quarters, we could execute the orders which were there earlier, and then we had a healthy order booking in the first 2 quarters, and which will be coming for execution in Q3, Q4. So hopefully in the next 2 quarters, our capacity utilization will exceed 75%.
Thank you. The next question is from the line of Ravi Swaminathan from Spark Capital. Please go ahead.
Thanks for taking my question. I have one question, sir. So can you give me the top sectors to which our the industrial segment caters to, like cement, steel? If you can talk about the top 5 to 6 sectors, and how is the demand scenario, how is the traction from each of these sectors, it will be great.
So earlier, I think I have already answered this question. All the sectors, almost all the sectors, we have our products, and I'm sure you must be aware that CG is the largest product basket as far as industrial product is concerned. On the top sectors, as I said, infra is doing well, pharma is doing well, and the oil and gas is doing well. Cement and steel, obviously, when infra increases, the cement and steel also goes up. So all these are doing well, and we have been catering to these are the major sectors. Apart from the water and wastewater, we are already there, and other lot of OEMs also. the fan manufacturers or gearbox manufacturers. All these are our big sectors where we supply.
Thank you. The next question is from the line of Nitin Arora from Axis Mutual Fund. Please go ahead.
Hi, sir. Thank you so much for taking my question. Just two questions here. Just a follow-up. Sorry, I was not able to talk when you were replying on the electric motor side. I said that, it's not about the OEMs have in-house the motors. What I was saying that OEMs already have a very strong vendor base of motors in India. Whosoever is supplying the electric two-wheelers, whether it's Hero Electric, which is already enclosed two vendors in India. These all was operating from China, the motors, whether it's Revolt, whether it's Ampere, or TVS. Everyone having a large market share today and having a significant booking have already enclosed the vendors and taking motors from them. So the question was, why would a OEM will change the supply chain and come to you, and what is the development stage of that motor? That was more of a question. And if you can answer that. And the second part of the question, the gross margin, which has declined very significantly, and you stated, the reason for it. Going forward, because this time you had a very high revenue side which saved the profitability, how one should look these gross margins, because these are almost like 29%. So, there's going to be this kind of gross margin for the next 2 quarters and then start easing out as cost being fully booked, or do you think further cost increase is still coming and will hit? It all depends on the revenue, how that moves. So if you can help us on both these 2 questions. Thank you.
Nitin, first on EV, right? So see, the EV, what you have to recognize is that the EV game in India is still kind of at what I would call kind of the nursery or the kindergarten level, right? And the players you're talking about, kind of whether it's Revolt or Ampere or kind of these guys, it's unclear kind of whether these guys actually will be the long-term winners in this game, right? Usually what you see in most of these kind of new games is that, 20 players will emerge, and it'll either be a few of those players that become kind of the winners, or some totally new guys who are not first generation players at all, right? So I think it's too premature to actually kind of say like, hey, listen, the existing guys already have their own vendors, right? The second is, as you probably know, quite a few of these vendors are Chinese, right? And we don't think that this Chinese, especially given kind of the government's kind of desire to make in India, we don't think that kind of our dependence on a fully Chinese ecosystem is going to play out, right? We definitely think that it needs to be supplemented by an Indian ecosystem. It's the same problem we're seeing in pretty much any industry that is now dependent on China in any way, that nobody can get any supply, right? And, it's in India's best interest to basically develop our own technology for our own capabilities for something like this. So the real question to ask is, are there any large Indian players, right, who are basically now going to become the dominant suppliers for motor and controller, right? And our belief is that answer is no, right? To your second question, what is the status of our motor technology? We don't have a motor technology right now. We don't have a motor technology that we can basically supply into the EV market in a lot of these kind of power segments we're talking about, which is why we're basically saying that it is more of a medium-term focus. We are developing our approach to it. And we also don't think that the winners are going to get defined in the next 2 years, right? Because basically it is a space that is going to evolve. It's a space that's going to settle at least for the next, 2 to 3 years. That's our assessment at least. We might be wrong. Right? So that was in the first question. The second was,
how do you look at gross margins?
No, I think we are not going to comment on the gross margin. I think it's more about a futuristic statement. So should we say anything about this?
No, so I think it will take some time. We expressed, what are the challenges in the area of margin. So I think we should wait for some more time things to stabilize.
Thank you very much, sir. Thanks a lot.
Thank you. The next question is from the line of Niket Shah from Motilal Oswal Mutual Fund. Please go ahead.
Yeah, thanks for the opportunity and congrats on a good set of numbers. Most of the questions have been answered. Just one question which I had is on the debt side. if you can just help us understand, you had certain non-core assets which you're liquidating, and obviously there is significant amount of free cash flow generation which will come up over the next 1 or 2 years. So how should one really think about debt from current levels moving down to a debt-free kind of status? Should it be more like 1.5 year, or it can be slightly more longer?
So I think the time frame you said about 1.5 to 2 years, I think looks reasonable. So we will definitely, as we have more free cash flow and selling of proceeds from non-core assets, either we will deploy it for very good opportunities available. At the same time, as the chairman initially said, that unless and until we make the company debt-free, we will not look at anything big acquisitions. So the time frame you have mentioned is reasonable to assume.
And how much more non-core do we? So one is the Kanjurmarg property that we liquidated. The one is the CJ House, which I'm assuming, which you've also highlighted in the past. Is there anything else apart from this, or these are the only two major ones as such?
So CJ House, we are not considering as non-core.
Okay.
So other than that, I am not able to see anything big. There may be small pieces here and there. So large amounts of assets, there is nothing that I could think of.
Kanjur is a large chunk.
Kanjurmarg is a large chunk. Got it. And maybe one more question is, would it be possible for you to give us a rough quantification of how much was the impact of raw material costs in this quarter? Very rough cut ballpark number without giving accurate numbers.
Yeah, I just tell you. He is asking for the quarter. This quarter is last quarter two was almost about 8 to 9% was the impact. Otherwise, if you see for last 1 year, the impact is almost about 40% plus.
No, I was just trying to understand percentage, like the impact on gross margin and hence on EBITDA margin. Would it be about 2-3%, 4-5%?
So I think we need to work it out. Then we can't we don't want to give you some wrong numbers. We can maybe later on in touch.
Sure. Perfect. Yeah. Thank you.
It's approximately around 2 to 3%, sir.
2 to 3%.
Yeah.
Okay. Got it. Thank you so much, and congrats once again to the team. Thank you.
Thanks,
Thank you. The next question is from the line of Rajesh from Genmay Venture. Please go ahead.
Hi. Good afternoon, gentlemen. Thank you for the opportunity. Congrats on an amazing turnaround by Mr. Vellayan and his team, NS and all. Thank you so much. That was pretty swift. So on market cap side, we belong to market cap side of fraternity, and we all know that has been a big surprise. But from the acquisition, when you acquired Mr. Vellayan, are there any more negative surprises or positive surprises that you may want to sort of share from a business operational viewpoint?
Rajesh, thanks for the question. I think broadly we've talked about it a bit before. I mean, in some of the previous answers we've given. Like NS mentioned, we don't see anything significant from the negative side anymore. There's only this one kind of ongoing issue on tax, which can be kind of a long drawn-out affair. So we don't kind of see anything kind of significant beyond that on the negative side. On the positive side, like we said, I think kind of the timing, has been good from the sense that we've had the market pick up from kind of from the bottom of COVID to where it is today, and definitely the outlook for all the three major businesses, whether it's railways, whether it's the motors business, or whether it's power business, are all very strong, given that all three are backbones to kind of infrastructure growth in the country. And clearly what we see is an environment where infrastructure growth in the country is going to pick up, and it's going to be supported by these three core businesses that we definitely see have a lot of legs. And on top of that, if you compound kind of the opportunities from some of these newer areas that we've been talking about, whether it's consumer, whether it's exports, I think that that the platform that CG offers for growth is actually fantastic. So I would say that there's a lot more that we see on the positive side versus what we see kind of on the negative side at this stage in time.
That's very useful, Mr. Vellayan. And one related point in terms of you have been a big fan of Danaher and you benchmark a lot. And that company, in fact,
Sorry to
their
interrupt
result.
you, sir, but we cannot hear you clearly.
Hello, is it better?
Yes.
Yeah. Mr. Vellayan, just to Danaher you have been a big fan of Danaher, and they just keep doing great. In fact, their results just hit my inbox, and on a $7 billion revenue, they continue to grow 20% and 30% in profit. So you benchmark that at Tube. Now CGP is also in your fold. So should we look more CGP as Danaher following it, both the companies as a combined following as a role model? How should we think about it?
See, you could argue that CG was the first. Danaher's growth has predominantly been on the back of acquisitions.
Yeah.
And you could look at CG as that first acquisition. But your question as to whether we would use CG as a platform or TI as a platform, I would say, given the structure in India, right, it's not easy to take a public company and kind of suddenly make it private in India, right? So, given that both are public companies now, I think both will be effective platforms, especially because they have totally different businesses, right? So there are some businesses that would naturally fall into TI's platform from a Danaher perspective. There are some businesses that would more naturally fall into CG's platform. So like I said, when CG gets to being debt-free, then CG can also and will also definitely be a platform unto itself to drive that growth, right? And so if you see consumer, it's a much more natural fit with CG, so we won't put it in TI. Right? If we were going to do EV motors and controllers, much more natural fit with CG. So as we look at new areas, we just look at kind of where it's a more natural fit and associated with that entity, because that's a logical way to go. And, from a group's perspective, we've always looked at, we will always keep kind of, shareholder interests in mind, recognizing that the two entities can have slightly different shareholders as well.
Sounds good. So that's very useful. Thank you so much, Mr. Vellayan, and wish you all the best for India's Danaher in the making.
Thank you. Thank you, Raj.
Thank you. The next question is from the line of Shashithal from Samatva Investments. Please go ahead.
Okay, most of my questions are answered. I think that's it. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Hello.
The next question is from the line of Abhishek Poddar from HDFC. Please go ahead.
Hi. Sir, our non-compete with Crompton Consumer has ended. So could you share some plans of what we have on the consumer side of the business in terms of product launches or targets that we have in mind?
So we already launched the pumps, and then we are in the line of launching the complete fans business. That is the ceiling fan and the industrial entire range of ceiling fans. As of now, this is what it is in the offerings, and maybe going forward we'll add some more products depending on what market demands.
Right. And any market share or targets or anything that we have in mind?
See, when we have vacated, we had a very good market share, and we are always targeting to reach that level what we have vacated.
Understood. And on the consumer land sale, how will the proceeds be utilized?
Sorry, come again.
Sorry? Consumer land sale, how the proceeds will be utilized? Does it entirely go to lenders or some liabilities associated, which will be paid off first?
Oh, nothing will go to lenders. This money will come to the company. We'll have to see, maybe some portion definitely will be used for debt repayment.
Okay. And are there liabilities which doesn't go to debt repayment, some associated liabilities toward this land?
No, nothing is there as such.
Okay, understood. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. The next question is from the line of Charanjit Singh from DSP Mutual Fund. Please go ahead.
Hello, sir. So my question is especially on the industrial side. There is a part of the business which will be also driven through the channel. So if you can just highlight, has there been any major impact on the channel or channel partners would have left us? How we are trying to revive the entire channel for the industrial side? And on the core business or overall in terms of the manpower attrition, if you can touch upon how has been the movement of key employees? Have we seen any major attrition levels? Yeah.
Actually, we have never lost any of the channel partners. In fact, channel partners have helped us in the difficult times. So your question of gaining back is not there. They are already intact with us. None of them have left us. Only some of the industrial customers who have told us that because of your problem, we are going to some competition, and then most of them are coming back one after the another. So there is no issue. And obviously, we are not very high in attrition. And in fact, in the difficult times, people have stayed back with the organization and they have supported the organization. And only when the market opened up, maybe a slight increase in the attrition, but otherwise it is not that to the extent of any difficulties for the organization.
Thank you. The next question is from the line of Renu Baid from IIFL. Please go ahead.
Sure. So just two bookkeeping questions. First, on the Kanjurmarg land parcel, the first parcel was anyway sold off 5 years back. And the second parcel, if I recollect right, we were making provisions on a quarterly basis for delayed handover of the parcel to Runwal. So if you can help us clarify what is the net proceed which is expected from the remaining parcel on the Kanjurmarg asset. And on CG House sale also of the 380 crores, knocking out the pending dues on property, etc., what would be the net cash inflow expected from this asset sale?
So with respect to first question about the Kanjurmarg, in terms of total money which is expected is 402 crores, which includes that deposit what has been made with the Runwal in the past. So the total money to be received by the company is around 402 crores. Minus some 11 crore which advance is there in the company currently, so we get net amount of around 391 crore. This is the number which will come to the company. And this money will be used, as discussed in the past, that maybe partially which may go to the debt repayment and maybe also for the purpose of the growth. And in terms of that CG House which you are talking about, CG House is now owned by the company only. So I don't know whether you have really seen in the past that debt settlement had been done towards the CG House. So we paid the lenders. Now the CG House belongs to the company. In terms of the lease renewal, what you are talking about, 80 crore, that is as of now doesn't exist. So we are working on the lease renewal, and it may happen maybe in 3 months to 4 months time. So there is no as such any 80 crore will go from the company, sir.
Got it. And lastly, if I can just check, in the industrial systems, if we see in the last 3 or 4 quarters, especially the last 3 quarters, the market share gain seem to be clearly evident. Is it also that we have not entirely passed on bulk of the price increase to the customers, because most of the industrial motors are short cycle off the shelf products, which are then the LT motor segment. And if I understand, most of your peers have taken pricing action. So is it that we have opted for the strategy to first regain the lost volumes at the cost of margins? And if that is the case, would you perceive a risk to retaining these market shares once pricing actions are fully taken into effect in a couple of quarters in the market?
So we are doing it. We are not taking any one path. We are doing it very balanced way. We are also focusing on gaining our market share. At the same time, we don't want to forego our margins because of the price increase not passing on to the customer. But obviously, as you rightly said, this is the half shelf of the product. So there is a time lag in recovery. That we may have to first pay to the raw material and then maybe recover maybe after 2 months' time from the market. So that is how it is going on. But definitely not in one route. It is both balanced way we are doing it.
Got it. Thank you and all the best, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you. The next question is from the line of Vipul Lambaf, an individual investor. Please go ahead. Mr. Lambaf, your line is unmuted. Please go ahead with your question.
Yeah. Hi. Thanks for giving me the opportunity to ask the question. Most of my questions are answered. I just wanted to thank the management, TI management. I'm holding the stock since I'm a retail investor. I'm holding the stock since TI acquired, and it has really helped to increase the price multifold. I just wanted to thank the management and hats off to the turnaround they've done.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. The next question is from the line of Dipesh Agarwal from UTI Asset Management. Please go ahead.
Yeah, good evening, gentlemen. I have one bookkeeping question. What is the extent of the contingent liability still to be settled or accounted in the books, or everything has been taken?
So as of now, there are no contingent liability except that tax dispute which we are talking about. So that may take its own time.
Okay. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. The next question is from the line of Janak Vora, an individual investor. Please go ahead.
Hello. Thank you, sir, for giving me this opportunity. My question is, when can we expect the first maiden dividend in CG Power? Hello.
So I think, this company has a lot of legacy issues, and there are some debit balance and profit and loss account. We have to wait for the year to make a profit. So then we cannot give any time frame, because dividend is actually a question which is normally decided by the board, because chairman is here. But in our system, generally the board, as mentioned in the Act, board will take a call. But the earliest, when we are capable of, I can say, going by the Murugappa Group policy, whenever it's possible to declare a dividend, the company will consider declaring a dividend. Is that all right, Chairman? Yeah.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you. The next question is from the line of Harsh Bhatia from Emkay Global. Please go ahead.
Yeah, thanks. Most of my questions have been answered. Just one quick question. What sort of equipment or components are we carrying on the inventory side? If I can see, it's around 500-600 crore on the balance sheet. So if you could throw some light on what sort of equipment are we carrying on the books? Thanks.
No, it's not equipment at all. These are all raw material or a finished goods. So, so we have an inventory days which is around 45 days, with respect to our sales. So we do not have any equipment in inventory. It's all about the raw material and the finished goods.
Yeah, but there could be some equipment in terms of, if you look at drives or something like that, we might have some sub-components.
Yeah.
Right? Sub-components. But the largest components will be kind of steel, copper,
raw material.
Okay, thanks.
Thank you. The next question is from the line of Arvind Joshi from Battalion Advisor. Please go ahead.
Yeah, hi. Thanks for giving me the opportunity, sir. Sir, I just had a couple of clarifications. This debt of closer to 700 crores, which was there mentioned as the net debt currently, does this include the sale proceeds from Kanjurmarg, or is it before the Kanjurmarg sale? And my next question was, sir, what kind of tax shelters do we have after the entire proceedings are settled?
So this doesn't include that Kanjurmarg proceed as of now.
Okay. And what kind of tax shelter would we be having as the things progress and you get visibility on it?
So I think, it's very difficult to quantify or state anything about tax shelter, because there are several issues which can go this way or that way. So,
but on a broad cut, I think we should have a significant cover, right?
I don't think so.
Okay. Okay, fine. Thank you.
Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, this was the last question for today. I would now like to hand the conference over to Ms. Bhumika Nair for closing comments.
Yes, on behalf of DAM Capital, I would like to really thank the management for giving us an opportunity to host the call, and all the participants for being on the call and participating. Thank you so very much, sir, and wish you all the very best.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. On behalf of DAM Capital Advisors Limited, that we conclude this conference. Thank you for joining us, and you may now disconnect your lines.